Hey guys, before we start this episode, I wanted to talk to you about Type 1 Lifting. So, Type 1 Lifting is a clothing line that proceeds of the shirts and tanks and everything else goes to the Children's Diabetes Foundation. This all came about with me and seeing a 5-year-old girl in the emergency department that had new onset of diabetes. Just take a look at the website. It's www.type1lifting.com. So just check it out. If you don't buy anything, that's perfectly fine. I would just like for you just to take a look and just see what we have. So, like I said before, www.type1lifting.com. And guys, I hope you enjoy the show. All right, guys, another episode coming at you with the Type 1 Lifting Podcast. I have a good friend of mine that is a trainer at the gym that I work out at, and her name's Rachel Myers. How's everything going?
Hi, good. How are you doing?
No complaints. I like to let the listeners know when you first started getting into personal training, and how long have you done it?
So I've been training professionally for about 6 years now with my certification. I got my certification through NASM. It's been about 6 years. Before that, I was just kind of doing it on the side with my friends here and there. Total, probably 10 years, but legitimately 6 years.
Okay, very cool. So, what was it like, when you got your certification, looking for a job, and where was your first spot that you actually was a personal trainer at?
So it's kind of a funny story. So I still work, the gym I work at, it was a different location. I had just moved to Georgia, and I was looking for a job, and I just worked out there all the time. I had just moved here, had no friends, had no job, and at the front desk, they asked me, do you just want to work here till you find a job? Because I was in there every day, sometimes twice a day, and I got to know them at the front desk. So I actually started working at the front desk, just very part-time while I did some other things. And I had always wanted to get my certification, so I thought this was the perfect opportunity to do it. I was dating a trainer at the time who was like, you would be perfect, just go and get your certification and at least do it for now until you figure it out. And I got my certification, decided I was good at it and I liked it, so I've stuck with it.
Awesome. So what was it like with your first ever client?
So I was definitely nervous. It was my first time meeting her. It was early in the morning, and I had everything planned out ahead of time. I had the workouts we were going to do and all of that. Like I do with everybody in evaluation at the beginning, we sit down and talk. She was so simple, no questions, no nothing. It was like yes or no with her. So we talked for maybe 4 or 5 minutes, went and did the workout. She went through everything so quickly. I just wasn't prepared. I had extra time to kill. So I just I had to wing it the last 10 minutes of her workout maybe. And from that point on, I just kind of figured out, okay, things are going to happen. Probably 4 out of 5 times you can't have everything planned out.
Yeah. So what was your evaluation? What do you talk to them about? And do you do movement assessments or anything like that?
Yeah, I do. So it's kind of evolved the last few years. I mean, it's been pretty much the same. I sit down, I ask people, the first question is always why they're there, what they want to get out of personal training. So I just kind of get to know them, see if they have any injuries or any recent surgeries, any limitations, medical concerns, things like that. I really talk to them and get a feel for why they're there. And then I'll take them through. It just kind of depends. For the general population, though, I'll have them do a few basic exercises. I'll have them do just basic squat to take a look at their form, see how they move, their range of motion, any imbalances. I'll have them do a push-up, whether it's from their feet or from their knees. A plank, I'll have them hold for 30 seconds to see if they have any imbalances there. And then I'll have them do some sort of core exercise, depending on that point, what I see that they're able to do or not, whether it's basic or more advanced, to kind of see how their core strength is.
Okay.
That's very basic. It just depends whether they're an athlete or if they have an injury. It just depends. I'll add a few more things, but that's pretty much the baseline that I do.
Yeah. So what are the type of clients that you relatively deal with most of the time?
So I have a good range, anywhere from like 12 years old to 75, but I prefer athletes, people that want to work hard and sweat. I mean, everybody's different. Everybody's fun. I find that more times than not, 99% of the people I've trained, we've become really close. I love them. They're super fun to work with. But I would say athletes are probably what I would prefer. Somebody who's not afraid to lift heavy and sweat.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So how do you, as a female trainer, I've always been curious about this. So how do you get your male clients to kind of buy in to say, hey, I know my stuff and I'm going to push you?
So it's kind of funny how it's shifted from when I very first started out versus now. So I think I'm always very professional with my clients, but I also get to know them on a more personal level. But yeah. I think from the very first sit down, a lot of men, especially if they're older, don't necessarily take, a younger female telling them what to do seriously. But from the get-go, the first meeting, I lay down everything, the program, what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, things like that. And I think it's funny when I do, so we have the Tanita scale, the body composition analyzer.
Yeah.
There's a ton of information. I know you're familiar with it, but for those listening who don't know what it is, it just shows your muscle mass, how many pounds of muscle, how many pounds of fat, how hydrated you are, bone mass, like all kinds of stuff, your inflammation you have in your body, so many things. And I usually see the shift in the men who are all kind of like, I can tell by their demeanor, they're always very nice, but it's just kind of like, what are you going to teach me? And then by the end, once I go through everything so thoroughly, their demeanor just shifts, and it's kind of like, okay, like I just feel they have more respect for me at that point.
Yeah.
But I've had, when I very first started training, a few male clients try to hit on me, and that just shut down really quickly. I don't want to say that they become afraid of me, but I think they kind of get like, okay, I can't mess with her. We're here to work.
Yeah, especially when you're telling them it's like, this is like professional. Like, I'm here to, we're doing one job and we're not doing anything else after.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of been fun for me to just see the shift in the dynamic a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's pretty funny. I can imagine like seeing a guy like try to hit on you, then all of a sudden you just like flip that switch and be like, nope,
right.
Nope, and then they're like, oh, all right, this chick's for real. So.
Right. Yeah. It's happened a few times. I have some good stories.
Yeah. Well, tell me one.
Well, the very first, this was probably, I had only been training for a few months, like professionally. And it was actually, a client that was supposed to work with a different trainer, a male trainer, but he wasn't available to work that day. So he asked me the night before, he said, can you go in and train these people for me? And it was this guy's first training session. So we worked out a couple of times. I give every single one of my clients my cell phone number just in case they have questions or need to reschedule or whatever. And like always, I gave it to him. And he a couple of times would text me, ask me for coffee or things like that. And I just never responded. And then I just started working him out so hard. He was young. He was in great shape. He could handle it so hard to the point where, oh, my cat.
That's okay.
That's my cat. Sorry about that. They're fighting. They want attention, but just started working him out to the point where he could not talk the whole
Yeah.
Just like we couldn't converse like at all other than, you okay? He'd give me a thumbs up, just little things like that. And after a while he got it that I wasn't there to make friends.
Awesome. So when you have your clients and when you do the assessment and like you kind of talk them through this stuff, do you kind of like ease their way into like new movements, or do you just kind of do like a small assessment with like a lighter weight, or how do you manage with like assessing new stuff?
Yeah, so after the initial assessment, I usually warn people. I say it's probably going to be a little bit boring for our first session. I just want to kind of take a look at how you move, what you're able to do, and things like that. That way I can go from there and program a workout that's customized to you rather than, I mean, I know every trainer has their own style of doing whatever, but I've seen a lot of people do the same exact workout with all of their clients.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with that. I mean, there might be some basic things like, I don't know, they'll all do like some variation of a squat or some core workout, but definitely not the same thing every day. So from the basic assessment, I kind of see like what they're capable of, what they need to work on, and based off of what their goals are, I'll kind of go from there. If it's somebody that's never worked out before or haven't worked out in a while, I definitely will give them more basic exercises to kind of build their foundation and their stability and work their way up. Even people who are very fit athletes, I'll still start out easy because I want to make sure they're conditioned before I throw something more advanced at them.
Yeah.
A lot of people, well, not a lot, I'll have a few people who want to get into more of the powerlifting, Olympic lifting, things like that, and they're not that familiar with it, and they wonder why can't we just jump right into heavy deadlifts? And I'll explain to them that we have to get their body ready for it. In simple terms, they have to be conditioned, we have to work on their stability and all of the smaller muscles so that they don't get hurt.
Yeah. I've noticed like some of the clients, they're just like, they want to lift the heavy weights because they see it on like social media or like, you know, I want to look like this dude, and like I've had clients say like, hey, I want to look like you, and I'm like, I don't think you understand like how long it took me to get to where I am.
Yeah, so. I had a client the other day. She's awesome. She's done so great. She just turned 18. She only trains with me once a week, but she kicks ass. She had never worked out in her life, never lifted a weight, never done sports. But she comes in, she works hard, she does what I tell her, she goes in on her own. But I was having her do a specific core exercise for stabilization, and I demonstrated it. I did a few reps, and I was like, this is a really tough one. You drop to your knees, you know. She tried it because it looked easy, and then she looked at me. She couldn't do it from her feet. I was like, just trust me, go to your knees. She was like, you made that look so easy. Like, how are you? Like, I have been doing this on my own for at least 15 years. Like, you've been doing it for 4 months. It takes a long time to A, look a certain way, but B, to be able to perform a certain way.
Yeah.
I was like, my core is stable because I have been lifting weights for 15 years. Before that, I was an athlete in school growing up, all kinds of things. I'm like, for you never doing anything and 4 months in, you're able to do what you can. You should be proud of yourself. It just takes time.
Yeah, I always tell people it's like it's baby steps.
Right, exactly.
It just takes time. I mean, I've had clients go from just like lifting the bar to like maybe having a 2.5 on each side and then doing the lift, and so I always kind of like break them in that way. I mean, at the end I've had clients like do a trap bar deadlift with like 135, a female in her 50s. So yeah, and they're like,
yeah, it's just, you know, consistency is key. And I told her, I'm like, look at what you can do now that you couldn't do 4 months ago. Picture yourself a year from now.
Yeah. I can't imagine if you had her like at least 3 times a week, what would she would see?
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah. So have you had like clients that, you know, they're only there for like 8 sessions and that's it, and then like they try to get something out of it, or like, you know, what are you trying to like? Do you tell your clients that like, you know, hey, you need to do this a lot more than just like the 8 sessions that you paid for? So how do you kind of like sell them into, you know, you need to do more sessions?
Yeah, so there are people who will just buy a chunk of sessions for specific reasons. Like they just want to learn how, they want to get familiar with the weight room, or they want to know just the basics to learn form. Just because, I mean, there could be a variety of reasons. Maybe they can't afford it, it's expensive. Maybe they don't have the time, or they travel, or they just want to learn, or they have something specific they're getting ready for. And in that case, I mean, that's all. You know, I'm not a salesperson, but I think they see the value of what they get out of it. So I would say most people stick with it for you know, most of my clients, I mean, I just switched locations of where I train at, but where I was at before, I was there for 5 years. Most of my clients were with me the whole time. I rarely took new clients
Yep.
because my schedule was full with the old clients. But yeah, I mean, there are different reasons that people might only buy a few, but I would say in the most cases, people sign up thinking they just want to try it out, and then they end up sticking with it because they see the value in it. They see, a lot of them, it's accountability.
Yeah.
One man I trained for about 3 times a week for 4 years, and his wife was like, don't you know what you're doing by now? He's like, yeah, but I'm not gonna do it, or I might do one set, or I might skip a day or two.
Yeah.
It's just having somebody there waiting for you, telling you what to do, watching your form so you don't get sloppy. So.
Yeah. So with all this COVID stuff going on, obviously the clientele in the gym, and even before that, the gyms were closed. So did you do like remote coaching at all, or like what was it? What were you doing throughout that time?
No, so when I left the one location I was at, I went to a different one as the director of personal training. So I took a little break from training, even though technically it was a promotion. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I didn't like being in the management. And that was in February. So I started that right before COVID.
Yeah.
So when the gyms shut down, I didn't have any clients at the time. I was just furloughed. So, I guess fortunately and unfortunately didn't have to worry too much about that. But once the gyms reopened, I said to the owners, like, look, I miss personal training. This management is not for me. Can I come back to training? And they were like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So they put me where I'm at now.
Okay. All right. And obviously you're not as full as you were before. But,
oh yeah.
So how are you handling that right now?
I've been pretty busy. I've been fortunate that I've been a lot busier than other people. I think I got lucky the time I came back into the gym. But I would say, like, my schedule last year, it's probably half as full as it was before.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot harder. I mean, obviously that's how I make my money. I only work off of commission, so it's definitely not ideal, but I would say it definitely could be worse. I know some other trainers at different gyms. Some are struggling, some are doing great. It just kind of depends on the location and the type of clientele.
Yeah. Have you done, like, 2 people at once, or like a group training? I mean, that's the best way to do it, I think. So
yeah, I that's a lot of fun. I do a few people at once. I've done husband and wives, I've done friends, brother, sister, and then I teach a lot of the group training classes.
Yeah.
Those are a lot of fun. I prefer the one-on-one or two-on-one, but every now and then I had a few clients. I used to train the 2 were friends, and then separately I trained the one's husband, but every now and again the 3 of them would come together, and it would just be so much fun.
Yeah. So with awesome. So with the group training, so, obviously it's hard, looking at like 20 people all at once. So how are you able to like manage, group training when like watching out for people at all times?
When I very first started doing that, it was definitely a challenge at first just because I wasn't used to that many people at once.
Yeah.
But as time went on, you just kind of get used to it. Plus the people in those classes, generally, they come every single week. It's the same people after, and they begin to learn proper form, proper technique. And I tell them the same thing all the time, like, keep your shoulders back, keep your weight, get off your toes, things like that, simple things. But when I demonstrate the exercise at the beginning of class, I make sure I really focus on the key things that people usually are doing wrong with their form. And I say, make sure you do this, this, and that. If you don't, you're going to throw your back out, or you're going to hurt your shoulder, things like that. And I make sure people understand why they're doing what they're doing. And then it kind of clicks for them and makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah. So a little quick story of my first group training. So I thought the gym that I was at, I thought it was for a spin class. So I got all the bikes ready, and like, it was like a little studio area. And then all of a sudden everyone walks in like, wait a second, I thought this was like a group exercise class. And I'm like, what? And so they're like, no, this is like a group exercise session. I'm like, oh shit. So I literally had to take all the bikes out and like immediately, like within like 2 minutes, try to figure out like like 8 different stations all at once and just try to split it up. And I'm like,
No.
all right, go for like 3 laps around the building. All right, and just like, and I was like, okay. And I was like trying to write everything on the board and everything and demonstrate. And it was like,
That is awful. That's literally my nightmare. I actually have nightmares that I'm late to my 5:30 a.m. class, and I have to write up the workouts and set up the room, and everybody's waiting and watching for me.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah.
How did it turn out?
Yeah, it was interesting. And like the owner of the gym's like, oh, I thought I told you it was group exercise. And I'm like, no, you didn't. So like,
That's awful.
thanks. But it was fine. Everyone was like okay with it and everything. So it was.
Right. Oh, that's a relief. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my work.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. So obviously, with the group classes you're doing now, it's like a whole new like they call it Zone 4. So with like they do it with like really dark and blue lights. So I mean, what are your without like not getting in trouble? Like, what do you think that way is better than the other way?
It's just an adjustment. It's good. They're both good. What it was before versus what it is now. It's just different. It was just getting used to something new. How the classes were before, I would say it's just a different program because the trainers who taught the classes were the ones to write the classes, and we could kind of tailor it to our clientele. Like, we saw those people every day. We know what they like, what they can do, what pushes them. And we always had a ton of fun with it. The location I worked at for 5 years, so I was in charge of the classes over there. So I got to do a lot. I knew everybody really well. I got to do a lot with it. And then when I, went to management for a while and then switched back into personal training, it was, the new style of classes. And it's just different. It's more like, I'm not saying it's worse or better. It's just more corporate. It's more like very by the book. This is what you do. We can't really make it our own, which I understand why they do that. It's just the people who take those classes signed up when it was something else, and now it's just completely different. So it's just been an adjustment for myself as a coach, and then also the members who have been doing it for a while. It's just different. I don't really like working out in the darkness, but apparently that's the new thing. All the boutique classes are doing it. So.
Yeah. So for the listeners, the classes she's talking about is literally the room's like completely dark, and there's like blue lights that are like shining like in random places, and like music is blaring, which is cool. But it's like a complete different aspect of like group training that like other people have seen. So I mean, you may see it at I don't know, like Equinox, or I don't know what I think. Oh, maybe that spin class that you'll see it like Soul Cycle. They do that too. So it's kind of like that. So that's what she's talking about.
Yeah, at first I thought it was really strange, and I was thinking, I'm going to turn the lights on anyways in my class. But I wasn't allowed to. But I'm used to it now, so I really don't mind it. Just for class, after the class, they'll leave the lights off and walk out. And I see people working out in there, just regular members, working out in there in the dark, and that drives me crazy. I'll take my clients in that room after the class every single time. It probably annoys you, but I'm turning the lights on. I'm like, we're not working out in the dark.
Yeah. I can't do that either. Like with my clients, like when that back room opened up with like all the power racks and like with that the expansion, I literally just took the corner spot. Mm-hmm. I'm like, we're not really deviating from anywhere from this. I mean, that's all we need really, because like I personally for me, like I don't like the machines unless like someone has like bad form and then we need to use the machines for it. But like I really don't like touching the machines whatsoever because they don't need it. So first, that's my theory on it. So I mean, so what is your theory on like the machines? And
I agree with you. I'll use them every now and then. It just kind of depends if somebody, if their form is bad or they have a back injury or something like that. Mm-hmm. Or if it's somebody that doesn't have very good mobility, things like that. Or if somebody's super sore from their workout earlier in the week, I'm like, all right, I'll let you do a machine or two today.
Yeah.
It's just, everybody's different. I don't like to use them for myself. If they're the fixed motion, just because I feel like not not everybody is built the same. We're all different. We all move different ways. So say you're doing like a shoulder press machine, you're in that fixed motion. I know me, for example, I know my shoulders don't necessarily move that way. My joints move in a different way. So for me, something like free weights or the cables are a lot more beneficial.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I mean, I'll use like the leg extension machine, and like everyone asks me at the gym, I'm like, hey, do you bench press at all? I'm like, not really. Mm-hmm. It's like a rare occasion that I do, or dumbbell bench press. It's probably like once every like maybe month.
Right. Yeah.
So, because I don't think like for me, like the way I work out, I don't use it. So.
Right. And yeah, everybody is different, so you probably don't need to use it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's your schedule like? Do you have like I mean, for me, what I did was, early morning sessions, break in the middle, and then, afternoon sessions. But what are your sessions? What do you like doing?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. I am not a morning person. I never have been, but I've always, as a trainer, I've always worked early in the morning just because I feel like that's when it's busy. That's when I make my money. And I don't want to say it's not true for everybody, but I feel like a lot of people who are there early in the morning are really dedicated and motivated to come in and work out before work.
Yeah.
Not that people who come everybody's schedule's different. I'm not saying they're harder workers than everybody else, but I've always just enjoyed my clients early in the morning because it's kind of more quiet in the gym, and they're in there, they work hard, and they're out. And I like having a break in the middle of the day to kind of, good and bad, but if I have an appointment or I want to take a nap, it's nice. And then working in the evening, I used to not like it, but I do really enjoy it right now. All of my clients in the evening are super pleasant. They're a lot of fun to work with. So
yeah.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, when I had the afternoon sessions, especially the gym that you work at, it was so swamped because that back room wasn't even open yet.
Right. Yeah.
And it was so frustrating because I would be walking around and be like, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this. And there's like no room. And so like I literally had to like completely change everything.
You have to get creative. It's tough.
Yeah. And it's like, you'd have to think on the fly. And like, I had one client, she's like, do you like think of this like on the fly, or like, do you have a set program that you want to do? And I was like, well, I have a set program that I want to do, but if something happens or someone has the machine, like the area we have, I have to like think of something on the fly. And so she would be like, all right, this is on the fly workout, isn't it? And I'm like, okay, it kind of is, but we're doing the same thing that we want to do. Yeah.
Right. And that makes it tough to do. I mean, I like the gym that we're at. Like, it's such a big gym. But I also don't like that because it does get so crowded and it does make it harder to do things you want to do. I have clients asking that too. They're like, how do you plan my workouts? And I'm like, well, I may plan out everything we're doing, but usually I don't. But for that very reason, I'm like, okay, I know we need to work on your hamstrings and I know we need to work on stability, this and that.
Yeah.
I might not have every single specific exercise planned, but there's a reason we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah. So when you're training people, especially in the afternoon, do you have like people coming up to you and asking you stuff or like trying to shoot the shit with you? And like, how do you deal with like, obviously your focus is your client, but how do you like kind of like tell them like, not right now? Or
well, it's usually somebody that I know that wants to come up and chat, or there's somebody that I'm acquainted with that I see in the gym and say hi. But I'm usually really good about it. I'm like, oh, hi, how you doing? Good to see you. I'll see you later. And just kind of like, or be like, I got to get back to my client.
Yeah.
Or I've had people who I'm with a client. This frustrates me a little bit. I'm with a client, like, clearly, and somebody will come up and say, hey, can you come show me how to do blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, yeah, well, I'll be done with her at 5:30. I have somebody right after that, but I'll be free in 3 hours, or
yeah.
I'll be happy to show you then. Or if you go ask them at, the front desk, I'm sure somebody else would be happy to.
Yeah.
But I don't know if people don't realize I'm in a training session. I think a lot of people don't really know how it works, but
yeah,
I'm usually kind of like polite but quick to dismiss them, and I think they're like, oh yeah, she's working.
So when you first started, did you have like a notepad or anything like that, or just like, yeah?
So I would say for the first week I had a notepad, and then I realized it just kind of like for me, I know a lot of people use them and it's, a great tool, but for me, it just was kind of a waste to carry that around for things like that. Like what I would have planned out wouldn't be what we're doing. And a lot of people ask me, how do you remember what we did last week or what weight I do or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is my career. This is what I do 6 days a week. Like, I know you're my client. I see you multiple times a week, every week for how long? Like, it's my job to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
One of my clients, he's awesome. Our, I think 5-year anniversary together is coming up. He started with me at the other location, almost 5 years ago, 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And now the location I work at, it's 30 minutes away from him, but he still drives all the way up and comes, and trains with me 3 mornings a week. He's awesome. He's 70 now and he works so hard. So it's awesome. He said this morning, actually, he's like, I adjust the seat on one of the benches he was using and pick the right weight for him. He was like, you always know what, how to set it up for me. I'm like, I shouldn't. It's been 5 years. I should know by now.
Yeah.
But it's awesome when you build relationships like that and you have clients like that who will travel with you, and 5 years later they're still working out with you.
Yeah, those are I think those are the best ones for, especially you financially and like personally, because I've had clients that I was with for years, and I mean it worked out really well, like, and it was awesome, and like they always wanted to be like, okay, I want to do this today, and I'm like, okay, I mean I was planning to do something else, but if you're more than welcome to try it out. So
yeah, for sure. And it's awesome to help the relationships you build. Like, I never thought one of my really close friends would be a 70-year-old man who I met at the gym. So.
Yeah, I mean, the client I've had the longest, I think she's in her 50s, and the weird thing is like we have the same birthday, we graduated college with the same degree, and we had like everything was like we're both artistic, and like it was like kind of so weird. We're like, all right, this is kind of weird how.
The same person.
Yeah, we have the same like almost everything, and it's like, and she's like, yeah, it's kind of weird too, but like we stuck with it, and it was awesome. It was like the best relationship ever. And I mean,
amazing. It's such a good feeling too.
Yeah, and even I don't train her anymore. We still chat and online and stuff like that. So, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, but speaking of online, do you do online personal training, or have you done online before?
No, I don't. I always kind of wanted to get into it, but I know that the market is so saturated with like Instagram and things like that. There's so many people, whether they know what they're doing or they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's so many things out there and it's tough. I've had a few people who I've made, like clients who were traveling, afford to come to the gym all of the time. I've made them customized things for them to do on their own.
Yeah.
But that's the extent of it.
Yeah. Well, 90% of the people that do remote coaching don't even know what they're doing. So.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. They just genetically have a small waist and a big butt, and they're like, buy my booty plan.
Yeah. And like,
have no idea.
They'd stick their ass in front of the TV, stick their ass in front of the camera, and be like, look at me, look at my ass.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I was born like this. Yeah.
Have you ever tried? So. I had another guest before you. His name's Mark Rulli, and he's a guy. He wants to have like personal trainers stay in that career forever and have clients that will last forever, like your client that's been together for 5 years. Yeah. And he's adamant on LinkedIn. Have you tried LinkedIn at all, or?
I haven't. I'm not that active on it. Like. Maybe a couple of times a year I'll go on there, but no, not really. You need
to get on it. I think it's because you got to think his way of thinking is you have career-minded people on that compared to Instagram when you have like high school kids or college kids that have no money and can't afford personal training. So, I mean,
right, exactly, and you appear more professional if you have a LinkedIn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a good idea. I'll definitely have to use it more.
Yeah, and post a lot on it too. So that's what I need to start doing. Like, because I want to post out content, but it's just like, okay, I post here, here, and here, and then I'm like, oh crap, I forgot here.
And and it's tough too. I've had people ask me why I don't do more, like with like a fitness Instagram page and posting and making videos. And for me, it's like, working out, weightlifting is my hobby and it's also my job. I don't also want to then have to go and add like a third aspect. I personally don't want that to be my whole life. I like to have like a separation from it. So
Yeah.
for me, I had a fitness Instagram at one point, but I was like, this is just too much. I think it's great for the people that do that, and fitness is their world. But for me, like, I love to lay on the couch with my cats and eat pizza and watch murder mysteries too. It's normal, you know what I mean? It's about balance.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Like you need balance in your life. So, and if eating pizza and watching murder mysteries is fine with you, that's perfectly fine. So,
Right.
Yeah. So, so with your schedule, so have you done like 12-hour, like have you done like long periods with like training, or have you had that burnout phase for like constantly like always training like every single day and like that's it?
Yeah, I did a couple of years ago. I was working a lot. Like would say I was at the gym at 5 every single morning. I would do like 7 or 8 hours in the morning and then come back for another 3 or 4 hours at night.
Yeah.
And then Saturday mornings too. And I was making good money, but it was just exhausting. After a while, I was like, I physically and mentally cannot do this anymore. I'm such a huge introvert, which surprises a lot of people. A lot of people are like, oh, but you're so outgoing, you're so blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not shy, I'm not afraid to talk to people. I love talking to clients, but it's just the end of the day after, like, always being on, making sure, like, watching people's form, being on my feet, running around, conversation after conversation. To me, like, that just drains me. Although I love it,
Yeah.
I'm just exhausted by the end of the day. So it reached a point after maybe 6 months of working that much, I was just mentally, it started affecting me physically, too. I'm like, I just am so tired, so I had to cut back my schedule a little bit.
Yeah. So speaking of scheduling, so how do you train in between like all of your clients?
So right now it's a little bit easier because I'm not as busy as I was. I'll have a little more breaks than I'm used to. Normally when my schedule is back to back to back, I would work out in the middle of the day on my break. I would get done for the morning around noon. I would do my workout then go home and shower and eat and take a nap or do whatever and then go back. That's normally what I'm used to. I feel like that's when I feel the best too, time of the day. I don't like to work out early in the morning and I don't like to work out at night because I'm tired.
Yeah.
But middle of the day, that's usually what I do now. But sometimes my mornings have been a little bit slower lately, so I'll have an hour here or there. I'll do my workout when I can get it in.
Yeah. So you've done CrossFit before, and we've talked about that. So are your workouts kind of like CrossFit oriented, or like what are they like now?
Not as much as they were, a little bit. So I used to always be like heavy lifting. That's it, nothing else. But I've started the last maybe 2 years, I've started adding in a little bit more endurance and cardio and things like that. I always hated cardio, but that's just because I never did it and I was terrible at it.
Yeah.
So the older I get, I mean, I just incorporate a little bit of everything, which is why I like CrossFit. It's fun. It's an awesome workout. You burn a lot of calories, and it's just fun. Like, I love Olympic lifting. That's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to add more variety. I feel like I had done the same type of thing for so many years. I've just been trying to switch it up a little bit. So not as much CrossFit. I'd like to go back to CrossFit, but the classes at the gym I was going to were at the same time that I'm busy with my schedule, so I just kind of stopped going. But
yeah, well, you should follow my program that I follow.
Oh, okay.
It's a free. It's literally free. It's like an app. It's called Comp Train.
Okay.
So
okay, I see you've been there every morning, and I'm like, that looks awesome.
I mean, I have gotten used to the morning sessions, but like when I was personal training, I just like you, I would train because I have a whole gym in my basement, so
nice.
I would train while my son's sleeping, and
nice.
And so like I would do that for like an hour and a half or whatever the program was, and now since COVID hit, I was working out at night, which was miserable for me because my blood sugar was low, I couldn't work out that night. So it sucks. So now I just do in the morning. and pretty much have like no issues, and I just stuck with it. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you feel good like the rest of the day.
Yeah,
I'll definitely have to check it out.
Yeah, and then 8:30 at night, you're like, you hit a wall, and you're just like, I want to go to bed, but you really can't because I have to do other things. So, but yeah, it's a little getting used to, especially getting up at like 4:30 in the morning, and I mean, obviously you do that as a trainer, and I did it as a trainer, but like after COVID, you'd wake up at like just before you go to work because you're working literally in your bedroom, and just turn over and be like, hey, here's my computer. So,
so yeah, and over COVID, I wasn't working at all, so I just my sleep schedule slowly got like, I stayed up later and later.
Yep.
Slept, because I normally wake up at 4:30 or 5. I was waking up at 11.
Oh my gosh, that's like college years.
I know. I was like, I can't believe, like, what is going on? I just would like every week it was like an hour later.
Yeah. I mean, for me, when I used to work overnights at the hospital, like right when I moved down here, so I would like literally go to bed at 8 and just like wake up at like, I don't know, like 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And it'd be miserable. Yeah. I hated overnights. It was the worst.
Mm-hmm. It just is, it throws you off. It's like when I'm a huge napper. I love to nap. It's like when you take a nap when it's light out and you wake up and it's dark.
Yeah.
It just throws you off and it's confusing.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't had a nap. It's been a long time since I've had a nap, so it's like because of my 2 kids.
Yeah, I don't have any cats. I just have cats. Yeah, so they nap with me.
So, as a trainer, what do you think in your mind is makes a great trainer, like a trainer, a great trainer?
So I think there's a few completely different pieces that are all equally important. I think obviously you have to know your stuff. You have to know like what you're doing. You don't necessarily need to have years of experience training other people, but you have to know for yourself. You have to know the mechanics of the body, at least a little bit of anatomy. You just have to know how things work. So knowledge is definitely, obviously, one of the most important pieces. But I think how you interact with people is another huge piece of the puzzle. I've seen trainers who are great. They know what they're doing. They know their stuff. They're in great shape themselves. But their interaction with people, they just can't really interact with people, or there's like a very certain type of person that they can work with. I think it's a lot of, just how you interact and how you communicate with people.
Very cool.
That's a huge part of it.
Yeah, I completely agree, because you can have, like you said, amazing trainers, but like, or you can have like people that are very talkative and they're like really bad trainers.
Right, and it has to be a good balance, because there's a lot of people who they're there they see you several times a week, every single week for months or for years, and they get to know you, and they trust you, and they want to, they start to open up to you about things that they don't necessarily want to tell their friends about, or, just things that they can't really tell anybody else. So you kind of become a therapist too.
Yeah.
You're their outlet. They're there working out for whatever reason, to relieve stress, to be healthy or whatever. Like, you're the one helping them on their journey. And I feel like they need to be able to talk to you or to trust you. Some people, they just want to work out and not say a word, and that's fine too. But I feel like you just have to have you have to be a good people person. Like I said, I'm an introvert, but I still connect really well with people.
Yeah.
So I think those are the two best components, I would say, that make a best trainer.
Yeah, I agree, because I've seen you communicate really well in the morning time, even though I'm like in between, like dying between sets, but like I do see, like, you actually interact really well, and that's why I wanted you to come on the podcast, because I wanted to get your side of like how you train people and all that stuff. So
awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and also, do you have any like goals that you want to hit by the end of the year, or like you want to do by next year at all, or
like with training or personally?
Anything really.
I would love to get back into CrossFit how I was. I had done a couple of years ago. I did 2 competitions, and it was so much fun.
Yeah.
I'd like to get back into that. Just with COVID, and even before, when went into management, my whole schedule and my whole like working out routine, everything just kind of shifted. So I'm a lot weaker than I was. So I'm sure like everybody else, I'm just trying to get back into my routine. So I think definitely next year I'd like to do a CrossFit competition again.
Okay. Well, I mean, the CrossFit Open's coming in February.
Yeah.
So if you want to do it, I mean, I don't have a gym to go to yet. I'm trying to find a CrossFit gym to do it at. But
right.
the gym that I was doing the Open at, like before, they closed down because of COVID. So so I was like, well, I can't go here. So where am I going to go next? So
the one I was going to is awesome. I'll have to send you the information about that.
Yeah.
They have the good equipment. But yeah, that'd be fun. February is a good goal.
Yeah, I mean, you can get at it and start doing that program I was telling you about.
Get back into it for sure. Yeah, I think that's definitely attainable.
Yeah, and cool. so a little off topic with training. So you have a good amount of tattoos. So how did all that come about?
With my so I always wanted one. I was super like artsy, artistic. All I did was art, like growing up as a teenager. And then my very first one I got inside of my arm. I thought, okay, nobody will really see it. It'll be kind of hidden. So I waited like 3 years and I finally got it. And then my next one was just like big on my forearm. And then from there, I just started getting more. And now I'm going to keep going. They're just expensive. But I think I probably have like 13 or 14 right now.
Okay.
My whole right arm and then a little bit on my left arm. But yeah, and it's funny. We used to have to cover them up at the gym training until the summer before, not this past summer, but the one before we could finally show them off. So it'd be like 95 degrees out and I'd be in long sleeves.
Yeah. Do you think that like the reason why they wanted people to cover up because they thought it was like intimidating for the clientele or, you know?
I have no idea. I don't know. But I know the reason they said that we're allowed to show them now was, I mean, it's just becoming more acceptable. Everybody has tattoos pretty much.
Yeah.
They said, one of the owners, he was saying that at all of our locations, people just kept not covering them. They kept just having their tattoos exposed.
Yeah.
And he was so tired of like having to tell everybody and make everybody cover it up. Finally, he was just like, you know what? Like everybody has them. We need to reevaluate these rules. And I'm glad because, you know, it's not fun training in long sleeve shirts.
No, I can't imagine. I've always wanted to get a tattoo, but I'm thinking like since I'm 41 right now, it's kind of like, is it really worth it getting it now?
Do it, yes.
So I don't know. I mean, I've had a couple of ideas. I don't know if it's even worth it. So, but we'll see what happens. Yeah. But all right. So we're getting close to the end. So do you have like a favorite book that you like to read over and over again? It doesn't have to be business. It could be like a book like, you know, you would give to your friend for a gift because you liked it so much.
No, honestly, I'm not a huge reader. I just think I have a hard time focusing.
Yeah.
But I'm really into documentaries. Like, okay. I like to watch. I would rather watch a documentary than read a book. I feel like it's just easier for me to focus on.
Yeah.
But I love things about, like, space and, you know, the universe and stuff like that.
Very cool. I'm a big space guy, too. Have you seen the latest Netflix one, the Ben Lazara UFO?
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, you got to see it. So I saw him on the Joe Rogan podcast, and, like, he talked about, like, he actually saw like alien spacecrafts and like they're
okay. I know what you're talking about. I just haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, you got to see it. It's super. I haven't seen I've listened to the podcast. I've seen like probably like 20 minutes of the documentary. So it's really, really interesting.
That's awesome. I'll check it out. If I could be like, I've always been fascinated by science. But that was in school. That was always my worst subject. I tried so hard because it was so interesting, but I just was not good at it.
Yeah.
But if I could do anything, I'd be a scientist for sure.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. And also, if anybody has like, you know, a question for you about personal training or, you know, where to find you for like, you know, taking a personal training session with you, like where could people reach out to you?
I'd probably say the easiest way would be my Instagram. It's Rachel A 820. So RACHELA 820. That's probably the best way
Okay.
to get in touch with me. Yeah.
All right. Very cool. Well, so the last question. So, what would you tell a new trainer that's just getting into personal training, like what to expect throughout their career?
I would definitely, well, I would recommend they shadow as many trainers and talk to as many trainers as they can.
Yeah.
That's just probably the best way to prepare somebody. I mean, you can read and study and learn as much as you want, but like we talked about earlier, that's only half of it.
Yeah.
So I would say just talk to as many trainers that you can, especially ones who have been doing it for a while.
Yeah. Funny story about that. So there was a trainer that was there for a hot minute at the gym, and he was shadowing me. And one of my clients was like, "I want to do a spin class," because I used to teach spin too. And I'm like, "All right, cool, I'm down. Let's do a spin class." And so
Yeah.
I told the guy, because he doesn't do cardio. I'm like, "Yes, we're doing a spin class." He's like, "I don't do cardio." And I'm like, "I don't give a shit you don't do cardio. You're doing cardio today." And so we did a half-hour session of the spin class, and I actually was the instructor, like on the bike, showing him what to do.
Okay.
Dying. He was absolutely dying, and like he was sweating profusely, and he's like, I gotta go home." And I'm like, "All right, well, I mean, did you learn anything?" And he's just like, "Yeah, I need to do cardio." And like after that, I don't think I saw him after that. So
That's hilarious. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everybody has their things. Like I said, I used to I hated cardio because I would never do it.
Yeah.
But I think, like, you don't necessarily need to work out, and there's so many different ways to work out. But so at least, like, yoga is not my thing personally. Nope. I don't ever do it. It's great, just not for me. But I'll recommend it if I think my clients need it. I'll tell them you should go to yoga for this, and that reason, things like that. But I think just having knowledge of what's out there, you don't have to necessarily do it yourself. But no, I feel like no way is the right way. It's just what fits for you and what fits for your client.
Yeah. So do you have any Instagram pages that you like to look at and to kind of steal? Not steal, but like kind of like show to your clients?
No, honestly, I don't. I used to follow a lot of fitness Instagram pages, but like I said, after a while, it was just kind of like we talked about, a lot of the same type of, a lot of people don't really know what they're doing, or a lot of them started to turn into, I was following a lot of the, like the bodybuilding, bikini competitions, things like that. And after a while, I mean, I was prepping to do one 2 years ago. I quit 5 weeks out just for health reasons. And I know I have a lot of friends who have done them, but I know I have a lot of clients who follow those women, which is great inspiration, but they're like, I want to look like this. I'm like, well, that's not healthy to look like that all year round. These people, professionals, is all they do. You can look like that for maybe 2 months, and then after that, it's just not healthy for you. So I think a lot of them, I just started unfollowing them. So unfortunately, I don't have any fitness Instagram pages I recommend. I just pretty much follow memes.
Okay, hey, that works. So Rachel, I just want to thank you very much for taking your time to do a podcast with me, and I hope the listeners do appreciate it too.
Yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
All right,
and hopefully listeners learn something.
Yeah, well, they will. So, all right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.